All right, everyone. We have Leah Hantman. Coddle? Hantman.
It's legally Hantman, socially Coddle. I haven't changed my name yet.
I've been saying your name wrong for like years then.
hmm
It's okay. It's all right.
I've
We're,
never
we're
heard you say
and,
my last name before,
and we're
so
not because I rarely say it. So I'm
yeah.
and this part isn't even going to be deleted out of the episodes. This is just like this is on there. So everyone knows how stupid I am, which is great. All right, so we have Leah on today for the community conversation. I'm super pumped. Leah is just an amazing inspiration. She is also my business partner with EmpoweredRx, which we're going to talk a lot about today. Leah's journey is pretty incredible, and she's going to talk on that as well. But I'm just so pumped to have you on today, Leah, to not only share your story, but also to bring some inspiration to all the folks that may be listening today, and also educate them on kind of what you've been up to. I think a lot of the folks that are listening now are a lot of our members, and they've probably been like, "Oh, where's Leah? Where'd she go? Or what's going on?" If they're unaware, and I'll just kind of say right now, you're not coaching at Prototype anymore. You're full in, and
No.
we're all in on EmpoweredRx. So I'm really excited for you to talk a little bit about that today. But to kick things off, would love for you to kind of share your story and your venture into the fitness industry. It's unique, and you started in like a medical route, and I don't know if everyone knows that. So I'm gonna stop talking and let you kind of share that with everyone.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike. I'm super excited to be here. I think I've always been an athlete. So as a young girl, I was always outside, kind of a tom girl, like running around and in the woods and the nature. I grew up with a really outdoorsy family, camping and stuff like that. So it really got me connected to nature and movement early on. My dad is also like a workout freak. So when I was like 8 years old, I'd be down in the basement, like doing bicep curls to Metallica with him, which is kind of crazy when I think about it. But so he took me and got me into weightlifting and volleyball and all that. And then I started martial arts. So I did that for a really long time, in addition to boxing and volleyball. And I noticed that the weightlifting I was doing with my dad really, really helped me. So I would often be one of the only females in the weightlifting room and in the high school, which is crazy to think about. It's in the last 10 years become more normalized for females to lift weights, but back then it just wasn't. So kind of an interesting journey there. But I got into running when my parents were getting divorced. It just was a really stressful environment. And I just went out and ran one day because I was kind of pissed off. And I noticed I got like a high from it, like a release. And so anytime there'd be any stress, I would just kind of go clear my head with a run. Um, and unfortunately, I ended up being assaulted in high school, and I didn't tell anybody. It was a really, really, really stressful time. And I used fitness to heal from it basically, or to cope. I would go running and clear my head. I would find strength in getting stronger, inner strength in getting stronger. And yeah, I just became a long distance runner. So unfortunately, without any kind of guidance on this stuff and having some stress involved, I ended up being an over exerciser, and with under eating and not knowing how to fuel properly, I kind of ran my body into the ground. I was, going out on 20-mile runs and doing crazy long distance workouts, and I'd feel really good mentally, but I definitely needed to learn how to fuel. So I started learning about nutrition and the right way to do weights and all that stuff. And I got my personal trainer license when I was 18, and then decided I wanted to go to school for clinical exercise physiology. So I went off to Colorado State and was there. And then I ended up shattering my ankle, and having to come home for surgery. And so that had me finish up my degree at Westfield State, which is actually where Mike went and Steve went. So kind of small world. I think you were a year before me, right?
I graduated in 2010.
Yeah. So you were a year.
2006 to 2010.
Yeah. So you were a year before me. So I
Yes.
came the year you graduated.
Mhm.
but yeah, so then after that, I started working in physical therapy and kind of corporate fitness world. Um, Really interesting. I ended up working for Garlic Farms, putting their first wellness program together for them. And so I would go from the hours of midnight to 7 a.m. and like work out with these truckers in the trucks. So they would have their truck stops at Garlic Farms, and I'd be there waiting for them in the middle of the night to lift weights and teach them how to stretch and help them reduce their injuries. So it was really a weird first kind of job outside of college, but it paid really well and it was different. So I really enjoyed it. And then I went to UMass Medical School, where I thought I wanted to go into like primary care to help women in women's health, particularly. I had an interest in holistic health and using fitness and exercise and nutrition, and just empowerment to help women kind of take charge of their health and, heal from things, because I had been through so much and I hated it. I literally could not handle. I would come home and be like, I would cry, I would hate it, I would feel emotionally drained, I would disagree with how they treated patients. Not to say that they're treating patients wrong, but I definitely think there's like a sick care model that doesn't really help people claim independence over their health.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really unmotivating to feel like I had put so much time and effort into school and everyone's expecting you to continue, right? Like if you have this chance to go to UMass Medical School, why wouldn't you see that through? So it was really, really hard to walk away from that. But I
Hard
think it was,
school to get into, right?
yes,
It's hard.
yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to get into
yeah,
that school. It's a
very
lot.
hard to get into that school.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the best decision I think I've ever made in my life. After that, I ended up running the wellness program and the gym at UMass Medical School instead. And I was so happy compared to the work I was doing there, but I still wasn't fulfilled. I kind of felt like I was going through the motions. And then, unfortunately, I was assaulted again. But this time I used self-defense, which I had, spent a long time learning. I'm a self-defense instructor and a boxing instructor. And the situation didn't progress because I was able to defend myself, which was scary, but it ended up being one of those situations that really, really impacted me because it brought back a lot of the stuff I hadn't dealt with in high school. So the court process lasted like 1.5 to 2 years, somewhere around there. And it was more traumatic than the event itself. For anyone listening out there, like reporting is the right thing to do, but the system is definitely not set up to help the victim. It's definitely, the onus is on the individual to prove that it happened. And these events typically happen behind closed doors or out of sight. So it's really hard unless you have video footage or proof to prove that these things go on. And so it's a really devastating experience to go through 2 years of court. And it kind of destroyed my health. So I ended up losing like 20 pounds. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. My job was threatened because it happened to be another medical student that was at the school that did this. And so I was in constant fear every single day that I would lose my job, that I would be retaliated against, that I would be shamed. And it just was like every single day was just so hard. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, just need a second. But yeah, so after I left there, I started my own business doing like nutrition. It wasn't formal yet. I just kind of within a week was like, I don't know. I'm kind of a get things done kind of person. So I was like, I'm going to do this. And I had about 53 clients by the end of 2 weeks doing a nutrition program. And it was good, but I was like too scared to do my own business long-term just because I had no business experience and my confidence was pretty shattered after the whole last workplace situation. So I kind of just was unsure of what I was going to do next, but I was happy having something. And then Mike reached out to me. I think I don't know how you found me.
That's a good question. From what I remember, you had there's like job like listing platforms out there like ZipRecruiter and like Indeed and things of that nature, and your like resume was on there. And if you pay on the platform, you can see people's like resumes that are like looking for like jobs. So I remember like looking for someone that had like nutrition experience because we were looking to like improve like our nutrition program at Prototype. And like I saw you on there, and then I saw like your education background. And I was like, wait, you went to Westfield? I was like, do I know you? And then I think I stalked you on like LinkedIn, and I'm like, why do you look so familiar? And I feel like I met you at BSC at one point. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was
Oh,
like,
weird.
yeah. So then I just reached out to you, and I think I reached out to you a couple times because I don't think you got back to me at the first time, but I was like pretty like persistent. And then I think you're like, yeah, yeah, we can have a conversation. And then, yeah, I'll let you finish the story. But yeah, I think it was like, I saw you had your resume on one of those job posting platforms. And I reached out to you almost like, was like, okay, I want to talk to you. You have this amazing experience. I want to learn more, about you. And you also had like, because what the credentials that I was looking for was like nutrition and like CrossFit, like level 1, which CrossFit experience, which you had because you were going to CrossFit in Worcester. Was it Center Mass?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, this is like perfect. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. So I was a little bitter about the whole workplace thing after what I had been through. So I kind of ignored, I think, Mike's first few attempts at contacting me.
I'm pretty persistent. So
yeah.
okay.
So, but then I got back to him because, and then as soon as he told me he was a values-based company and had me take, some surveys and some tests to identify my values, I was like, okay, I trust this guy. This is cool. Like if he's aligned with values and, growth and development, like that's something that I've been looking for in a job that is new. Most places don't do that. So if you guys don't know, Prototype is a DDO, or a developmentally deliberate organization, which means
We're trying to be. We're trying. That's our goal. But
that's the goal.
that's our goal. Yeah,
That's the goal.
We're getting to. But yes,
it's a really unique kind of place. And I remember when I left my last job, I told my husband, I was like, okay, I want a job that evaluates me, is really harsh with criticism, like constructive criticism, helps me grow, helps me become a leader, and doesn't just like say good work to everything without helping me, better myself. And then, Mike started telling me about all the processes he has to develop coaches. And I was like, yes, this is awesome. I feel really good here. So yeah, then I came there. I worked there for like a year and a half before COVID hit. And when COVID hit, all of my clients started to show signs of like extreme anxiety and stress, and their health started to deteriorate. And basically, I took the experiences I had with my own trauma in the past and what I did to kind of heal my health and feel better again. And I started applying those with the women that were having body image struggles and things like that. And it started working really well. And I said, oh man, like this could be something. And so I asked Mike, you were open to anything I kind of wanted to do, which is awesome. You're always like so supportive. Yeah. And I started the program at Empowered at Prototype first. And then it kind of grew and got to a point where I wanted to pursue it. And Mike was really supportive about helping me with that. So that's kind of how we got to today.
Yeah, it's such a journey that you've been on, right? Like from getting into fitness, like at a young age, you went through these incredibly traumatic events that you've taken your personal experience, you've dealt with them in certain ways. You found that there were things that were not quite right, like over exercising, like stress, anxiety, fear, these emotions around it, and these things that like as were a result of the trauma. And then you took this healing approach and this experience and then also the mindset you had around the medical experience, right? Because you were in medical school and you're like, this is something's not right here as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then, where we are today with Empowered RX is you're working with a lot of young girls now who have eating disorders and have gone through trauma. And the thing that is so impressive is you have this real world experience, which I think is so unique in the sense because, from my understanding, there's a lot of women that have gone through trauma, but you've gone through different levels of experience and you've coped with it in different ways. You have this like this learning that you can't be taught in a school setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's like experience is really important here, and you've taken that and now it's become this program that is making a huge impact on not only these girls' lives but these women that are in this program. I would love for you to talk a little about like the impact that you're seeing that Empowered has been making, and kind of like for folks that don't know what Empowered RX is, maybe kind of define like what the program is and what it's doing today.
Yeah, so EmpoweredRx is a mentorship program that helps girls and women to reclaim their health after it's been disrupted by trauma or eating disorders. So 86% of women have had at least one traumatic experience in their life. Most women have had multiple. And then there's like a statistic that says 98% of women have had disordered eating at some point in their life. So
can you define, sorry to interrupt, can you define the
sure.
traumatic experience? Because I think that, I don't know, like if people that are listening, like know what that's defined as, right?
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So a traumatic experience is any adverse life experience that causes distress or overwhelms one's ability to cope. So it could be divorce, it could be a car accident, it could be an assault, it could be a natural disaster, it could be mental health disorder, it could be being marginalized, racism. It can come in all different forms, but basically it messes with one's ability to feel confident in their identity. And it also ends up deteriorating their health because it's all impacting the nervous system, which basically controls every system in our body.
And I'm sure social media is not helping, especially with a lot of younger kids.
No, yeah. So social media is impacting people, especially with COVID, right? Because they were taken out of their school and social settings, and then they spent a lot more time online and behind the computer. Yeah, social media and diet culture, it's all impacting. That diet culture can be traumatic in and of itself, depending on your own experiences. So, yeah, we basically work with women who have had these adverse life experiences. We call them ACEs. And we try to help them understand how their trauma has impacted their health. Because a lot of women will come to us wanting to lose weight or, thinking their body's not good enough or saying, I've been on these crazy diets. I don't know why nothing's working. And when we look at them, we realize that they have a history of trauma. Their nervous system is completely overwhelmed. Their life is riddled with stress and they're completely immersed in diet culture. So we have a health at every size approach, which means we believe that you can have internal health at any size, which basically breaks the stigma that you have to be super fit, super lean to be healthy. And we're kind of trying to redefine what it means to be healthy so that lots of individuals don't feel like they're pushed out or marginalized for their body, basically, so they can take control of their health again.
And one of the things that, so when Empowered RX was a program like at Prototype, similar to, we have personal training, we have CrossFit classes, we have our Thrive classes, we have Prototype Nutrition. Empowered RX was a program at Prototype, and you were working primarily with a lot of adult women and doing and applying these mentorship practices. And, it's navigated to this huge problem that you've kind of discovered, and that there's a bigger problem with the way that things are being kind of treated right now, right? And I'm talking about these girls that have eating disorders. Can you talk a little bit about that? Maybe kind of the path to how, Empowered is, so again, Empowered, the mentorship model, but finding this kind of this niche or this population that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, so every single woman that is enrolled in our program has been through trauma of some sort, and every single woman also happens to have disordered eating. So it's no coincidence that trauma or adverse life experiences and living in today's kind of diet culture society can produce coping mechanisms surrounding food relationship, the most common being binge eating disorder, and then these disorders that are more vague, and then anorexia being the least common. But what we're finding is that since COVID, there's been, I think it's like a 300% increase in eating disorders, which is absolutely terrifying. The statistics prior to COVID were that 1 in 5 adolescent girls would have an eating disorder. 3 in 5 would have disordered eating. So an eating disorder is going to be a set diagnostic criteria that's met by the Association of Psychology, but then you can have all these different symptoms that kind of mix and mingle between certain levels of disordered eating kind of on a spectrum. So we're looking at like 4 out of 5 girls having disordered eating, and it's a huge problem. So we got an influx of clients who had already been through the treatment system, which means that they had gone to inpatient services where they would stay at residential for a couple months at a time. And sadly, we're seeing most of these girls come out more traumatized than when they went in. So what happens is you take all these girls with vastly different levels of trauma and backgrounds, and you put them in and you try to use a cookie cutter treatment model where they're all getting the same care. They're triggering each other. They're learning new coping mechanisms that are unhealthy, like self-harm and things of that nature. And then they're actually being force fed, essentially. It is necessary, right, to restore weight so that the brain can function at a higher cognitive level for them to actually do the healing work. But they're given, upwards of 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day, forced to eat fear food almost at every meal. And they restore their weight very quickly so that when they come back, the relapse rate is I think the recovery rate is only 22% of people will actually go on to fully recover from an eating disorder in their life, which is not much.
So about 20%. So 1 out of 5
will recover.
Will over now. When you say recover over their life. Over their life,
yeah. And wow. The relapse rate is about 70. I forget the statistics, but it's in the 70 percentile. Most women will end up relapsing within their first year. And if we look at the reasons why, they go in, their weight restored, they're not given tons of coping skills that match their individual issues. Then they're pushed back into school where they've missed maybe 2 to 3 months of social, activity with their friends. They're not able to participate in sports again. Exercise in the eating disorder treatment world is usually off limits and not seen as allowed, which we view very differently. And I'll talk about that in a second. But the whole model is very rigid, and it can be quite contradictory to have eating disorders that are rigid based on food rules and guidelines, and then to go for treatment, be kind of punished for having rigid food rules and then be given rigid food rules. So the girls end up pretty confused, pretty disoriented, with new unhealthy coping mechanisms. And then usually it's accompanied by anxiety, depression, and other mental health concerns. So their whole body falls apart. The average girl coming to us started off between about like 75 to 100 pounds when they normally would be 120, 130 plus. So we're looking at some severe health conditions, heart rates in 20s to 30s, loss of hair, early onset osteopenia or osteoporosis, severe digestive issues, anxiety, depression, muscle aches, bone breaks. Like at very young ages, these girls are typically between the ages of 12 and 18. So it's quite tragic. But our model does believe in the transformative power of weightlifting. You're a weightlifter, Mike, and most people listening to this are probably weightlifters. there's something really cool about going in and throwing a heavy barbell around, and the more weight that you're able to lift, the more you realize how cool the human body is, the more you start to respect the training process, which means fueling, sleeping, recovery, and it all just kind of starts falling into place. We also work with intuitive eating, which is teaching the girls to pay attention to their hunger cues, their thirst mechanisms, teaching them about nutrition. When they're in the treatment centers, they're not taught nutrition, they're just given a food plan to follow. And that creates a huge disconnect, right? When we understand why we're doing something, we buy into it a whole lot more. So we work with nutrition education, and then we do empowerment and body image coaching as well to help girls. We'll explore like art therapy, we'll do writing, we do group calls and things like that to help the girls kind of feel like they're not alone.
There's so much to unpack with everything you just said.
Sorry,
no,
that was a lot.
No, it's good. But for the folks listening, if you didn't pick up on it, the current system is broken. Yep. EmpoweredRx is taking an individualized approach to help these girls, and by implementing the weight training strategies plus mentorship plus community, is making a massive impact on these girls and the people in the program. COVID has expedited, in like, I think the number you mentioned is like 300% increase, has expedited, or I should say even accelerated a lot of these problems. What like about like COVID, like in general, like what about this like this worldwide thing that we're all still kind of going through, like what in your opinion has like made this such a like has expedited that that 300%? Like what about this whole thing? Is it the isolation? Is it like the anxiety? Like what about it has made this an even bigger problem?
Yeah, so a lot of times eating disorders are rooted in anxiety, depression, and the need to feel control over something. So when we look at the pandemic and the nature of kind of what happened, it came out of nowhere. The country didn't really know how to handle it, so they just shut everything down. People were isolated, they were taken away from their friends and family. Lots of people were without jobs, which impacted the whole family unit. And then these girls are now sitting behind a computer screen on Zoom for 6 hours a day where they see themselves. Either that, or they're having to go out in public with a mask where they feel like they're maybe not seen by as a person, but just kind of seen as a body. And then they're also having a lot more time on their hands to spend on social media. And unfortunately, the TikTok world was exploding at this time as well. I'm not on TikTok often, so I think it's pretty toxic actually for our youth. There's a lot of influencers on there who preach about weight loss. They tell you how to do workouts, how to diet, how to fast. And all these girls were getting this information from these influencers, kind of just, they were inundated on a daily basis with it. So it's kind of that lethal combination of unfortunate factors at the same time. And then all of a sudden they're rushed back to school as if nothing happened. There was no debriefing. There was no psychological intervention for these students. And when you're young, you don't really process what's going on. You just know that there's tragedy and there's stress, and you don't really know how to cope. Stress management isn't something that's focused in on schools. Eating disorders aren't really taught about in schools. So it's just a really bad combination of things that I think led to that influx there.
Yeah, COVID has certainly expedited a lot of things, and it's really unfortunate that a lot of these problems and these just all the stuff that you just mentioned has just accelerated. But I'm an optimistic person. The bright spot of all this is the solution that EmpoweredRx is providing. I would love for you to just talk about, because I get text messages from you every single day, and it like makes my day, about the impact that you're making on these women and these girls in EmpoweredRx. And the cool thing is the impact that they're making on themselves too, and the impact they're making on their, like, each other with the community component to it. You know, you don't have to share any names, but would love to hear maybe some of the results, or like what you've seen so far with some of these folks in the program.
Yeah, so we have seen some amazing transformations in just a short time, which is really cool, but also sad to know that there's not help out there for more people who are going through this. So we had one individual who has been sick since the age of 12. She's now 17, has been in and out of treatment centers over the past 5 years, pretty much once or twice a year, which means going to residential for multiple months at a time. Weight will be restored, and then within like a month of coming out, there's a relapse. Within a month of working with Empowered, she had started to restore weight. Within 3 months, her weight was restored, and she's now maintaining. She's happy. She's back to her sport. She's weightlifting. She wants to heal now. She doesn't feel like anything is against her anymore. She's mad at the system. She feels like help was withheld. She felt like she was a prisoner and they didn't trust her to just make decisions. And all it takes is kind of like teaching people that it's okay to take risks and try new things. And by believing in them and trusting in them, they kind of are allowed to trust in themselves again. So they start taking small steps. And yeah, so this girl is fully weight restored, back at school, and just in a couple months. And it's been years and years she's been in and out of treatment. So that's been a really rewarding situation for us. And that's been happening with lots and lots of girls. So you'll hear similar stories. We have one girl who came to us having had an assault and an abusive relationship, struggled with bulimia and anorexia for her entire college career. And within a month and a half of working with Empowered, she is happy and actually can say she loves her body again and has stopped engaging in those behaviors. So it's a quick turnaround. That's not going to be the case with everybody. That would be naive for me to think we can always just help everyone out there, but there's definitely some evidence that we're seeing that this approach is working and that the holistic and more personal approach is needed. I think it's going to help change the status quo with how eating disorders are treated.
It is amazing. So, I mean, with the number of people that are affected by trauma and that may be listening to this, that may know someone that could benefit from at least having a conversation or learning more about Empowered, or maybe that's listening to this right now that's like, I need to talk with Leah. How do people get into contact with you? And I know there's a ton of free stuff. Like there's a free Facebook group. You just launched a low barrier entry program that kind of brings like the community side of things. You want to talk a little bit about how people can reach out to you, get in contact with you, but also kind of the different options that are out there if people want to like just do something, start today.
Yeah. So you can reach me at Leah, Leah, at EmpoweredRx.org. You can also find our website at www.empoweredrx.org. We're also on podcast. We have a podcast that's on most major streaming platforms, and you can just find us at EmpoweredRx. And we have a lot of different programs. We have the free community Facebook group, which you can email me about. We can get you in there immediately. That's something you could start today. We've got free resources almost daily in there. People are commenting with community support. They talk about their struggles. We help you guys come up with solutions and everything like that. And then we have the All-In Club, which we just launched, which is really exciting. It took off really quickly. We basically believe that in order to fully recover, you have to go all in. There's no way to kind of keep engaging with the eating disorder and get your life back. Your eating disorder takes your life from you, or you take your power back from the eating disorder. So the commitment to go all in means that you are committing to do scary things on a daily basis that are going to help push past those sticky points where you're kind of stuck in this quasi recovery state. So that is $30 a month to join. It's a text group, and once a month there is like a live Facebook kind of workshop, 30-minute workshop. super low cost, but the impact is huge because you're literally engaging with girls and women on a daily basis that are going through the same thing as you. And each girl is responsible for kind of telling a different challenge of the day. So an example might be, okay, today we're posting a recovery quote, and then all 30 women will post a quote that will kind of pump them up for the day, or, okay, take a photo of doing something that's healing today and share it with the group. And we just had one of the girls who is new to Empowered. We have them set an all-in date. So it's like a recovery date. So she threw herself an all-in party last night. She had a couple like glasses of Mike's Hard Lemonade, which is kind of a fear food for her because of unknown calories. She and her roommate and her dog took her dog didn't do it, but her dog was there. She loves her dog. They took all the food in her house and they Sharpied all the labels off so that they couldn't see calories or nutrients anymore. And they like celebrated this new start. So they're kind of going all in together. And we're going to see a lot of women kind of doing that, just kind of going all in and celebrating the start of a new journey. So it's really exciting, low barrier to entry, as you were saying. And then for people who maybe are a little bit more immersed in diet culture or need a higher level of help or community, we have the Empowerment Coaching Program. And that is a monthly one-to-one coaching session where we dive deep. Depending on your needs, the topic of focus will be different. But that is also accompanied by a weekly women's meetup or girls meetup, depending on your age, where we dive deep as a group. And the benefit of that is hearing everybody's experiences and learning from each other and knowing that you're not alone. It's been a huge impact so far. And then if you are really medically compromised and deep in the eating disorder recovery process or early on, or treatment centers haven't worked, we have our medical intensive program that are custom made packages that take into account anything you need. We do body image work, nutrition. We can meet with people every single day if that's what they need, if they want an alternative to their treatment program. It really is based on the individual with high medical needs though.
So many options, which is great. And we can add those links into like the description and all this stuff as well, so folks can kind of tune in. But this is awesome, Leah, going deep into Empowered. I'm so glad that we could share this stuff for the folks that are out within the prototype community that want to learn a little bit more about Empowered or maybe unaware of all the amazing things that have been going on, and the help and the results that these girls and women have been getting are it's changing. And I can see it. It's changing the status quo. And that was like one of the things that we talked about early on in like the business planning was like, it's changing the status quo to the current approach, this broken model. And it's just incredible that you're doing this and you're helping these girls and you're changing their lives. And I'm sure you know, I don't know if you reflected on it or you've thought about this, but like, you know, if EmpoweredRx was there when you were going through these things, like the impact it could have had on you. And now you're taking that and saying, I don't want that to happen to anyone else. And I'm going to try this. Right. And that is why it's just so freaking powerful. And I love it.
And I want to thank you because for anyone who knows me, I'm not a risk taker. I don't try scary things all the time. And Mike has been 100% supportive of me getting outside my comfort zone, kind of giving me the push I needed. And you were willing to like take a risk and help me start this program. So I really, really appreciate that.
No, I appreciation all around. It's all good. We have time for the Spitfire round, which I know you're not familiar with, but we're gonna dive into it. So three questions. I always say that I should change these questions because I ask them every time, but they're so challenging. First one is favorite movie, favorite TV show of all time, and what are you currently binge watching? So there's three answers there. Favorite movie, favorite TV show, and what are you currently binge watching of all time?
Okay, favorite movie is easy, Step Brothers. Favorite TV show, that's hard. I don't know if I have one. Is that allowed to say I don't have one?
It has to be one. So the easiest way to think of this question is that if you are flipping through channels, if you're watching TV and the show is on TV, you'll start watching it even if you've already seen the episode. That's the easiest way to think about it.
I would say Breaking Bad.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, Breaking Bad. And then I'm binge watching right now, Survivor. So Sam on our staff got me hooked on Survivor. It's crazy, and the new season just started. Have you watched it?
I watched Survivor before, but I was gonna say, do you and Sam have like Zoom parties to watch Survivor episodes? Because I know she's like the biggest Survivor fan.
She got me back into it. We did our community scavenger hunt. Sam and I partnered up and we made it Survivor themed, and Greg and I have been binge watching it ever since. So
Oh, that's awesome. That is great. That is awesome. Okay, second Spitfire question. Favorite musician or band of all time, and your favorite song of all time. If you can only listen to one song the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh gosh.
I know you're a big music fan and big musician. You can tell by the violin, the drums, the guitar. I mean, what other instruments you have behind you? The piano. I know the piano's back there somewhere.
I got a didgeridoo too, but that's been a fail.
Is that like? Oh, that's awesome.
I can't do it though. It doesn't work. So I would say Red Hot Chili Peppers or Incubus. They're definitely tied, or Tool. I can't decide those three. And then my favorite song, that's, as a musician, that's not possible to have a favorite song. I like all kinds of music. I like classical. I like rock. I like metal. I like pop. I like it all. So I can't ever come up with a favorite song.
All right, top 3 favorite songs, top of your head.
Oh, this is hard. I really don't. I can't do that. You got to ask a different question.
Favorite Incubus song of all time.
Morning View.
Favorite song by Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. This is too hard.
All right, we got
you gotta
one.
ask me a different question.
We got one. We got one. All right, last question is, what's your favorite hobby outside of working out?
Music. Playing music, yeah.
Anything in particular that you're playing right now or you're working on?
I really like the drums. I just started those this fall. I bought this drum set off of John, who bought it off of Russ. So it's like been in the Prototype Fit Fam a lot. Drums are really fun because you can just kind of like, I don't know, put on any drum. Yeah. Piano is really cool. I like to do that when I'm stressed out because you get lost in focusing on reading the music and stuff. So yeah, cool. Those two.
Drums and piano. I love it. And some good bands and some awesome several of those are one of my favorites up there. So a lot of good stuff. Well, Leah, I really appreciate you being on the community conversation today. This was awesome. I appreciate you sharing your story, sharing your journey, talking about EmpoweredRx. I think a lot of the folks that are listening found a lot of value and were educated today. A lot of the knowledge that you dropped. And for all the folks out there listening, thank you so much for tuning in to the community conversation. Every Monday, we have a new episode to get your week started. You can check us out on our YouTube channel or on any of these streaming platforms, including Spotify. So again, Leah, thank you so much for being on today.
Thanks for having me.